Hello dear MOOCers. You now reached the last video of your MOOC on the UN Global Study on Children Deprived of Liberty. And it is my absolute pleasure to be presenting a little bit of our expertise and experiences on the process. My name is Younes and I'm the Global Study Manager. And just now, myself and my colleague Manu, we came back from Geneva where we officially presented the global study. And here it is. It's really a wonderful experience, challenging on the one hand, and we will get to that, but it was truly rewarding and it is a forward-thinking study. So let me tell you a little bit about the elements of the process. On the one hand, we had the fundraising, because as you might have heard already, the global study was not funded from the normal budget of the United Nations, but rather states were asked to do so via voluntary contributions. And that was a big challenge, I can tell you, because it took us about a year to really set up everything and make this going. On the other hand, we had the element of what I would call the architecture of the global study, which is on the one hand, the questionnaire, which was an incredibly important element to the research, and on the other hand, the real pillars of the global study, which are the researchers and the research groups, which are spread all over the world. Then the next element, which really flows from that point, is the research. And the research was varied, multidimensional. On the one hand, we had 3 expert meetings, which really helped to set up this entire process. We had 12 consultations around the world. There were national consultations, regional consultations, and thematic consultations. We had 9 research groups involved that comprised 150 researchers all around the world. We had 274 children all over the world that were interviewed for the global study, and they have truly enriched the research. And we have received 118 replies from 92 countries, 67 UN member states, and the others were from NGOs, civil society organizations, national human rights institutions, national preventive mechanisms, and others. So they have really truly encompassed the research.
Dear MOOCers, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here and also join us. As you've already heard from Younes, the study manager, we are the core team in Vienna who have created the study process from the beginning. I am the global study coordinator and I support the independent experts, the research groups, as well as Younes throughout all activities in the global study. So this would entail, on the one hand, the conceptualization of activities via concept notes and methodologies, as well as support the research groups and the different cross-cutting research groups. Specific focus on child participation was my forte, where I also worked together with the NGO panel, as well as the experts in academia, Terre des Hommes, to create a kind of inclusive child-friendly version and child-friendly process. So in regards to methodology, I mean, I'm sure you've already heard throughout the sessions, but just to recap, on the one hand, you know, we are trying to address the current situation, the information gap, but this is still, of course, a big problem. You know, that states have different forms of data collection, different agencies and ministries work acquiring data from different agencies. So there is kind of a decentralization within data and an issue with data which still has to be addressed. Secondly, of course, we are looking at the current responses when children are deprived of liberty. So what are the different justifications by states to keep children in these different forms of detention, or just simply depriving them of liberty in different institutions? So that was another thing that we had to very, very closely look into, and please put a focus in that, because that is how the work can move forward. Thirdly, we are also looking at, of course, the positive aspects and practices and progress within states. We're not simply looking at naming, shaming. We want to have positive aspects spread out throughout the world, that children can be reduced from these situations of deprivation of liberty, and that we can implement specific aspects of child justice systems, non-custodial solutions, diversion, restorative justice practices, and so forth. As you know, we have the 6 different research groups, which you have already gone throughout the whole process of the MOOC. However, we also have the 4 cross-cutting research groups. And these cross-cutting research groups align very closely to the guiding principles of the Convention on the Rights of the Child, namely Articles 2, 3, 6, and 12. Article 2 entails the non-discrimination equality clause, which is very closely aligned to the chapter on gender. Article 3, the best interests of the child, trickles down in all different chapters and all research groups. Article 6, the right to survival, development, and the right to life, survival, and development, is very closely linked to the impact on health. And Article 12, participation and inclusion, which is very dear to us, is linked to the chapter and the research group on child participation. So as you can see, there is a very close link between the guiding principles of the CRC within the different research groups, as well as the oversight of every specific guiding principle via the cross-cutting research groups.
So as my colleague Manu really got into the nitty-gritty and actually the whole magic that made this work, I would like to share with you some of the experiences that we have made in this very complex yet very fun process. On the one hand, it is very important, there are so many different actors involved. So it is important that decision-making processes are inclusive. But on the other hand, do not shy away from making decisions. That means that tasks need to be divided accordingly and properly to where the talents lie and where the expertise lie. You're never alone in a project, so delegate and trust. It's very important, but make the right decisions. On the other hand, you got to be flexible, incredibly flexible. That means you need to be solution-oriented. Don't get stuck with a problem. Try to think outside the box, try to see different solutions and really go for it. So don't be shy. A challenge is something that will make you grow. What is also very important is, and that is the biggest one I would say in making something a true success, is to believe in it. Many people did not believe that we would have a book and a process set up in place. There was no money. There were not enough supporters at that time. And today we can tell you that we have 170 NGOs, that we have about 150 researchers, and that we have all the UN agencies having our back, and we can really see that it's a true success. So believe in it, and you will see it will be a success.
As George indicated, there are these key elements to make such a challenging project a success. I would just like to add that when you're working on a project about children, it is important to take in mind Article 12 of the Convention on the Rights of the Child, to have the views of children throughout the process included, starting from the conceptualization, but also the implementation and dissemination of such a project. As children are experts in their own rights, they should be included throughout such a project.